Chapter 2.
I'm Eric Cargill.
And I'm Rachel Elnar, and this is Cheers and Tears.
Design leadership tales retold.
Eric, I'm so excited. Our guest is a creative leader who thrives at the intersection of design, technology, and collaboration. He is the director of marketing at Penn Medicine Doylestown Health and previously worked as a software engineer at Amazon, where he also contributed design work to Glamazon, Amazon's LGBTQ plus group. He served on the board of directors for AIGA Philadelphia from 2007 to 2011 and again from 2016 to 2021. He's pretty much a lifer. With undergrad and master's degrees in graphic design from Philadelphia University, Temple University, and computer science from Drexel University, plus certifications in design thinking from IBM and typeface design from Cooper Union, he's passionate about streamlining workflows, bringing people together, and making big, beautiful ideas happen. Please welcome Bernardo Margulis.
Oh my God, Rachel, I'm gonna bring you along every time because that's like, you make me sound way better than I am. Thank you.
There's no way to sound better. I mean, you've got so many degrees,
Holy
so many
cow.
a lot of learning behind you, a lot of experience behind you. I can't wait to dig in and find out more about it.
Let's get to it. I'm excited to be here.
All right.
Yeah, I'm glad you could work us in.
Exactly.
I'm not that busy. I just got long commutes. But you know, I'm like, when Rachel says like, "Can you join us?" I'm like, "Hell yes."
Hell yeah.
So,
All right.
you know,
AIGA Philadelphia. I've never heard about that chapter.
you've never heard about us.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Well, it's contended, but we are the first official chapter. Sorry, New York. We've been, oh my God, I lost track. 1981 is when we were established as the first chapter. Um, I don't know, like, you're giving me carte blanche. It's such an amazing group of people. I don't know, like, now I'm like blanking because I'm like, what should I say? We used to have amazing people. You've heard of Christine Scheller a couple episodes ago. We had Alina Wheeler, we had Rosemary Murphy, Frank Baseman, Lauren Doherty. Like, we had amazing people on the chapter board for many, many years. We had the first mentorship program, and Rose, who established it, has spoken across the country about mentorship. Um, I don't know. I can just keep gushing about it. It's just like carte blanche. What do I say? Sorry, Eric, we keep interrupting.
No. It's fine. It's totally fine. Yeah, you keep talking. But what were some of the roles that you had on the board?
So I started as a sponsorship, and we've changed the terminology. I don't remember if it was sponsorship chair or I think it was sponsorship chair. Then sometimes we call them directors or whatever. So sponsorship chair, fresh out of undergrad. I got a phone call a week before graduating from Mary Beth Cradle Weitzel, who was also one of the board presidents. Hey Bernardo, give me a call back. It's Mary Beth. And I'm like, it's a week before graduation. My parents and my sister and my brother and my grandmother are here traveling from abroad to see me graduate. Am I in trouble? Am I not walking next week? And then I finally called her. She was like, oh no, we just want to invite you to be sponsorship chair. I'm like minus a week from graduation. What do I know? So I did sponsorship for 2 years. Fantastic experience. And then after that, I went to grad school at Tyler, and I was going to, all right, let me step back. And at the time, Kelly Holohan, who was my teacher in grad school, I was like, Kelly, I should step down. He's like, you should step down. And then Alex Zaradnik, who was the ethics chair, he was like, do you want to be my co-chair? I'm like, sure, because grad school and AIG at the same time are the best idea ever. Um, so I did that for 2 years. And then I moved to New York and I left it. And then a few years I came back, and Lauren Doherty, Christine Scheller took me out for lunch. And you should always know if someone from AIJ takes you out for lunch, dinner, or drinks, they want something. So they invited me back as a partnership director, which was a great next step for my experience as sponsorship. I loved sponsorship when I first did it, so it was a great next step. And then Scheller asked me to be her VP, and I said yes. And then as VP, the way we do it in this chapter, the next role you are president. So I was president for 2 years, um, including time in grad school because I didn't learn the first time. I was on the board again during grad school because not sleeping is the best thing to do.
Your second grad experience or your first one still?
Second, that was the second
Second
one.
degree
Yeah,
grad, okay.
yeah.
So you
Grad
didn't
school at
learn
25
twice.
and no,
Twice.
grad school at
Two.
25, you're stupid. Grad school at like 30 something, like you should know better, and I didn't.
Amazing. Amazing.
It was great. I loved it. Such a good experience. I learned so much. I met so many people. Like Rachel, like I wouldn't have met you, and you know now Erica wouldn't have met you. So I love it.
You were out with some AIGA boardies last night or the other night?
Yeah, yeah.
Were you getting back on the board? Did they take you out to dinner?
No, 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 no. Not now. I got an ultimatum when I finished grad school. I needed some time off from participating in things. And I'm not participating in things yet, but I don't know. Those are rumors, Rachel. That's dangerous. No, we're just having fun. Jen Jericho was in town. And originally I thought I was meeting her and two other people, and next thing you know, there's like, I don't know, like 8 people around the dining table, and I'm like, people I haven't seen in years. But that's the IGA. You think you're gonna see one person and they're the party. So yeah, they're not recruiting me yet.
That's great. I'm actually talking to Jen on Tuesday about a position. So I was just going to
Oh, there you
talk
go.
with her and see if there's anything I can do to help out. I wanted to ask you about sponsorship director as a
Yeah,
former sponsorship director myself
yeah.
here in Seattle. I found it very exciting and very challenging, but oh my God, it was so scary for me. I'm just curious about your experience. Was it already set up? Did the person before you have it all set up?
And it's funny. I told the story this week when I met with local people from AIGA. So as I said before, I was fresh out of school. I hadn't even walked to graduation, and I joined the board. I was 25 and stupid. Like, what do I know about raising money for a nonprofit? And I think that was very helpful. One of the first things I did. So when Maribeth offered me the position, she was like, "Oh, and then if you say yes, you get to go to Miami for the national retreat." And I'm like, "Yeah, I just finished school. I needed free vacation. Of course, I'm going to do that." So I remember being at the retreat and being surrounded by adults who had jobs and knew how to balance a checkbook and all that stuff, and learning so much from them and just taking so many notes. And then I went back, and there wasn't really anything established. The way we ran sponsorship at the moment, we had a paper show once a year, and that was our big fundraiser. But this was when paper shows were declining, and I remember the first thing I had to do was apologize to our vendors for a show I did not participate in, but didn't do so well. It was just the market was going that way. Like the show was fantastic. The person who did it did a fantastic job. The venue was amazing. The food was amazing. It was just the trends for those kind of things were going down. So my first thing was doing that. The second thing was we had Martin Neumeyer was doing a tour around the country, and we need to fundraise for. It was prepackaged, and they were like, "All right, you should do this much sponsorship, and this was for paper, and this was for printing." Um, so the goal was $2,500, and I only got $2,000, and I got printing and I got paper, and I remember walking into the board like the board meeting so deflected, so like, oh my god, I did not get the goal, and they're like, dude, you don't get it. Like we never got any money before, like all we only got money once a year, and that was it. I was like, oh, so I think like being naive and being young and not having that much experience was actually to my advantage. And years later, I learned I like systems and processes. So I had nothing. So I established systems and processes. I was like, oh, this is how we do tiered sponsorship plan. and actually Nick Presoleo, who was at a dinner a couple nights ago, who's like, "Oh, you're the one who did gold, silver, and bronze." I'm like, "Yeah, like, how do we create tiers? How do we create value? How do we? Hey, I'm not begging you for money. Here's an opportunity to reach." Then it was 650 designers who are your market. So I think being young and naive and also hungry to learn was very helpful. I definitely feel when I did partnership, I was a little older, I had a little more experience. I feel like I was more fearless the first time around, and the
Mm.
second time around, it was like, okay, I know better, so I'm more cautious. So I don't know. I think being 25 and fresh out of school was an advantage at the moment, but I loved it. Like we raised $50,000 over 2 years. We got all this in kind
Wow.
partnerships,
Wow.
and I'm like, you know, I did this. Like, I mean, it was a lot of help. I it was great. I loved it. It was fantastic.
Oh, that's
How
fantastic.
was your experience? Because you said, like, I don't know, you said it was daunting.
It was daunting just because asking strangers for money for for a cause that I believed in
Yeah.
was a lot easier. But just cold calling businesses and asking for money was difficult for me. But I was up to the challenge, and like I said, I had the organization behind me, so I felt very supported. Uh, but it was a stretch. It was a stretch for me, and I really surprised myself how much I leaned into it. I did not get $50,000 or
Over 2 years with help. It wasn't just me.
I yeah, I was there for 2 years, and I don't remember how much I got, but it wasn't 50,000, but it was, very much like you're talking about that moment where you're going in and you have this goal in mind and you're sharing with everybody. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, you guys. I didn't quite make it. Oh, it's okay. We'll be fine. It's oh, okay. All right.
And we were volunteers. So
Yeah.
it's not like there are metrics, and if you don't hit 95%, you're fired. Like, we're volunteers.
Yeah, and Gage was the president at the time, and he was very supportive and very helpful. He had a lot of great
Mm.
ideas too, and so, you know, um, we would just pivot when something didn't work. We would just pivot and try something else. So,
Yeah, and I think
yeah,
that's what, again, because we're volunteers, and it's not like the business would fail. Like, we could experiment, we could try things. Like, the next year we transformed the paper show into a resource fair. And whereas before the paper show was our biggest fundraiser, the resource fair, we had web developers and agencies who provide services to other designers, and I think we had an accountant. And the first year we did it at the National Constitution Center here in Philadelphia. The venue was super expensive. The food was overpriced for what it was. We didn't make any money that year, but because we had tried all the things that were successful elsewhere, it was fine. And it was like, we're experimenting, we're trying, and it worked out, and we kept doing it. The next year we got the Urban Outfitters lend us their, or Anthropology lend us their space for free. Their catering was a lot cheaper. We had more vendors. So had we not tried the first one and lost the money, we wouldn't be able to do the next one that was even bigger and greater. And after a step down, they kept doing it for a few more years.
You have to take risks if you're going to learn, right?
Yeah.
The chapter as a whole cannot learn unless someone takes risks.
Yeah. And it worked out. Sometimes it doesn't, but it did.
Speaking of risks, I'm going to say I met you in Omaha,
Which is
2008.
apparently like the most um, renowned, the most mythical one, or most epical one.
Mythical. Well, it's only because this is the birth of the pyramid, right?
Oh my God. And yes, because I was trying to do the timeline, and we definitely did not have pyramids in Miami.
No, because pyramids started in Omaha with Lauren Langfit,
Oh,
Minnesota. Do you
yes.
remember her? Yeah.
And she was a cheerleader in school, wasn't she? Didn't she say she was a cheerleader?
That I don't remember.
I didn't remember her until you mentioned her, but yes.
So taking risks, I was thinking, oh my God, I could see all my design heroes are here, right? Debbie Millman was here. brand new, fresh out of school, little Bernardo goes up to her and says, "I love you, Debbie." And I was like, "What are you doing?" And then they just became like instant friends. And Debbie would always call on Bernardo, and Debbie would be on like Bernardo's podcast or whatever. I was like, okay, this is how you do things. You communicate and you talk to them, and it's okay. And Bernardo showed me that way.
I appreciate that. So I'm actually an introvert. It's funny because you were talking about Josh was saying about the Myers-Briggs. I was an INTJ, but I play an extrovert in television. So it's I don't know. It's like the whole thing. So my first board retreat in Miami. So I first met Debbie when she was MC for a conference in AIG New York. It was called Body Language. It was a combination like the intersection of fashion and graphic design. I never knew about her before. I just remember her having this amazing presence, and I had just befriended a small group of people, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, Debbie's amazing!" Everyone was like fangirling about her. So I actually saw her in Miami, and then a few people were like, "Oh, Debbie Moment's there. Let's like," and we were dancing with her. And but then like again, being 25, being in the bathtub with Bill Grant, like how does that happen? Like the next year is going
Did you
to
say
Debbie Millman.
bathtub? Did you say
Hot tub, hot tub, hot
hot
tub,
tub?
I was
hot
like,
tub. Sorry, this is a family show.
I want to hear this story.
Exactly.
No, 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 no. Hot tub. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah,
There's a
that's
hot
okay.
tub. There was a lot of people out there. It was family friendly. English is not my first language.
That's
Apologies.
okay.
And then like, Sean Adams, like all these people who like how do you know them? Through IGA.
Yeah.
And pretending to be outgoing. But it was fantastic. Yeah, and I love Debbie Millman, and she's been so kind to me so many times. I'm like I go gaga around her, and she's just so like gracious about it because she's an amazing person. She's so inspirational to so many people. Um, but yeah, like a couple years ago when I was on the board, and there were a few issues. This was around um, George Floyd and pandemic and all that stuff, and I sent out an email on behalf of my chapter, and then Sean Adams just shoot me a message supporting, like, "Oh, that was a great message. Like, thank you for." So, like, the fact that I get to connect with this amazing design luminaries, um, it's all because of Edge, because it happened. And the
Well,
retreats.
I definitely want to have Sean on this podcast.
Oh, you should.
He has attended 19 retreats. 19, the highest so far. I thought it was going to be Mike Josie at 10, but no.
And the funny thing is, like, he's a pretty reserved person, but he's
Yes.
so giving,
He's so nice, yeah.
and like he does so well with anything like this. So I definitely want to listen and watch that not while driving.
Okay. That's a good idea. I know, you're so funny when you message me about Josh, and you're like, "I'm driving right now," but you're texting me.
Not a stop
Not
sign.
safe. Not safe.
It was at a stop sign.
So Miami was your first.
Yeah.
I'd actually like to hear about that a little more, just simply because you're fresh out of school, you're brought in on the board, now you're going to Miami. What was that experience like? And then beyond that, the after parties, what were those like?
It was a lot of fun and a lot of I don't know, it was great. I had just spent 4 years learning, you know, learning design and getting ready for my first job. And then I go to this weekend and I'm doing even more learning. It's like, okay, there are no tests, so I can actually enjoy this kind of learning. It was I just remember sitting in a room. So there were some activities that everyone was in the room, and some activities that were like by depending on your role. And I don't remember the general stuff, but I do remember specifically the sponsorship things that we were talking about earlier, and just having at the time Andrea Pellegrino, who was the national partnership person, and just talking to us, and this is how we can support you, what we can do for you, and like the resources, and like you know we're a little chapter in Philadelphia, but we have national telling us we got your back. And then hearing from other people who had gone through this and experiences, like I always take a lot of notes, but I remember coming back with pages and pages and pages and pages of notes. Um, so it was fantastic and getting to connect with other people, and I was 25 and there were people in their 50s and 60s and 70s, and it's like we're all, and that's one thing I love about AIGA, like wherever you come from, whatever your background, like you're here and you're here for a common goal. So I remember, distinctly, having that sense of belonging, and mutual support. And then some people who I stayed friends over the years, and some people who I never saw again in my life. But it was fantastic. And then going out at night, I probably did a little too much that more than I should have. I was the youngest one from my group, although they were like, "Oh, this party here, this party there, this party everywhere." I'm like, "Okay, let's do this." And why not? I just graduated. Let's do it. Um, so it was a lot of fun. It was fantastic. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
Part of the culture. And again, I would love to hear more about the hot tub stuff because that's all I hear about Miami is that, oh, everyone was in the pool together.
There was a pool, there was a hot tub, and there's the sea right there. So,
Oh, beautiful.
yeah, 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 yeah. So I remember being in the sea with three, four other people, and like 11 p.m. You couldn't see anything, but I mean, we didn't go too far in, but enough that like we could submerge. And then yeah, so when the party was done, you would go to the pool. When the pool was done, you go to the hot tub, and people had beers, people have I don't know drinks, and there weren't room parties like there were in Omaha, but it was yeah, it was a lot of fun.
You know, the room parties in Omaha were out of necessity. That was
Mhm.
because we had nothing else to do, nowhere else to go.
But although you were saying with I forget whose episode you were saying how we drank the town dry. But
Yes.
do you also remember how Emily Carr convinced the DJ at one of the bars? We had gone there one night, and this is the second part of the story. Maybe we'll get. I hope we get as the first part of the story. But the second part of the story is that we landed at this bar and we drank them dry. But then Emily Carr convinced the DJ to convince the bar owner to let us all in the next night without cover. Do you remember
What?
this?
No, I
Yeah,
don't remember that.
yeah, the DJ was like up like in a booth, and she climbed the ladder and talked to the DJ. It's like, hey, there's like I don't know how many were we can we come like we can come tomorrow if you like convince them to not charge cover, and we were there the next night.
I was not, but I'm glad you guys did that.
No, you were.
Okay, never mind
You
then.
were. But then we did the parties in the rooms, but I forgot about the Sharpies until you mentioned it. And then Sharpies, because we didn't have iPhones at the time. Yeah.
Part of the markers were because we were trying to get away from security. Do you remember that the security would come around the
Yes.
embassy suites and break us up? And so we
Oh,
all scattered like mice, try to figure out where to go next, and you had to write on the next number on everyone's arm.
I love that I forget all this stuff and you start talking and everything like falls together into place. Yes, until we found one room that was actually surrounded by other AIG people, so
Okay.
no one could complain about the noise,
Okay.
and we somehow lasted longer in that room. Someone lost a ring, someone like was, I don't know, throwing up in the bathroom, the bathtub was like overflowing, but somehow we found the one
Oh,
room surround like
this is
three rooms in a
Indy.
row.
This is
Was
Indy.
that it?
I think it was
Yeah.
Indy's room. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think this is all going to get cut out. But yes.
But the part I really want to share, and I have this picture of you and Stacy P. And I don't know if you and I had met at that moment, but I think it was just on the verge of us meeting and falling in love. And 12 years later, here we are. But we went to one bar, and the one guy did not his. Do you remember he did not have his ID on him?
Yes, I do remember that.
And the guy was clearly old enough to go into a bar. He did not look under 40, and they
Okay.
would not let him in. And there was like 150 of us waiting at the door to get in, and they wouldn't let him in. There were like 30 people already inside. And what do we do? Thank you. We're not giving you our business. We're standing with our guy. We're going to walk out of here and go somewhere else. Do you remember this?
I
We would
kind
not
of do
go in this
remember.
place because
Yes,
one
I
person
do.
could get in, none of us got in.
Yes.
So we did not drink that bar dry because they were terrible to our friend.
I
And I have a
love
picture of
this.
you and Stacey P on that walk to the other bar.
So 2007 uh, was Miami, correct?
Miami.
Did you
Yeah.
know is that 19 years ago?
Moving on.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying that you've been with AIJ for a very long time.
Yeah, and I was very involved in school, so
Okay.
a little more than that. Yeah, I
Oh,
got
okay.
involved like junior year of school, so I had been already involved 2 years.
So you've been in a leadership position for a very, very long time, obviously with AIJ and also prior to the leadership retreats. Was there any effect with AIJ? Did AIJ influence or your leadership influence the fact that you kept going back to school?
Has the AIG affected me and my leadership? Absolutely. Has it affected my desire to go to school? No,
Like,
they're
no?
unrelated.
Okay.
Um, so I don't know which will be the more interesting story. I think the way, so going back to school just because I'm a nerd and I love learning. And I mean, undergrad in my family that was a given, and then grad school. Um, Initially, I was always going to go to grad school for so backpedaling. I grew up in Venezuela, and I studied computer sciences just because I couldn't get a valid design degree, but I wanted to do design, so I started design. I always wanted to go to grad school for design, so I did it, but I my work permit expired, so that's why I did it at 27 instead of at 30 something. And then many years later, I was working for a university, Drexel University, and I it was almost free tuition. I just had to pay taxes on it. And I was like, what should I do? It was like, oh, I studied computer science and I quit. Let me finish it. So it was unrelated. It
Okay.
was just like, who goes to school for fun? This guy. Uh, Computer scientist for fun. This guy. Who has a major breakdown every 10 weeks and still keeps going. This guy. Thank you to my partner Jason, because I wouldn't have done it without him. The other question about AIGA, I mean, people keep saying over and over again, but like it's shaped my whole career, and being fresh out of school in the leadership position, and then years later coming back to it, first, like in a very direct way, a lot of the jobs I got were because of connections through IGA. That Miami on the way back, I was in a cab with Kelly Mullihan and Susan Vanderveer, who were in the chapter. And I was like, oh my God, I have to get a job because of my work permit and I only have 1 year, or they're going to kick me out of the country. And then Susan's like, oh my God, we can't find the right person for this position at our studio. How are we going to do? And Kelly was like, you stupid idiots, connect. You're looking for a job, you're looking for a designer, talk to each other. Um, but that was a lot. Like grad school, Tyler, I would not have gone to Tyler if it wasn't for all the people who went to Tyler from AIG and say you should go there. My job, a lot of the jobs I got, a lot of positions teaching happened through connections through AIGA. So a lot of my career has been shaped by it. But then also, Eric, we were talking before about experimenting and trying new things, and
Mhm.
especially when as a vice president, Christine Scheller, who is the president, we partnered very beautifully together. And she, I see her as a mentor, both formally and informally. And a week doesn't go by that we don't text each other, and I ask her a question. But also when as VP, she and I learned a lot from her, and we were able to experiment a lot of things. So then when I became president, we restructured how we did our recruiting. So Steph Sutton, who was my vice president at the time, we sat together, we analyzed, hey, let's look at the last 10 years of data and figure out what's been working and hasn't been working. Recruiting has been a problem. Let's work on it. And you know, I still get messages from the current board member, president, and like, hey, we're using the method that you help us create. I didn't create it. I hired someone who's an expert on it and helped us do it. But we redid our how we run our board meetings to be a little more participatory, because participation had gone down a little bit with the board. We were experimenting with having fewer events and more focused, rather than try to drive masses. Let's try to make it a little more focused. So all those things I was able to play and experiment. So I was able to try my leadership skills. So then, as a creative director, as a marketing director, I can hold on to the learnings, and I was able to not only learn on my job, but I had a second job at the same time. And by the way, I mean, you have to. Can I curse? I don't know if I can curse.
Yeah, fuck
You
yeah,
have
go
to
ahead.
like fuck it up and really be an asshole to get kicked out. If you do your job right and you try, like, you're volunteering, you're helping your community. So it's different than when you're on the job where, like, if something doesn't work out, it's like, oh, the metrics are down. Here's like something doesn't work out. Oh, like, let's fix it. Let's do something better. So, in a very roundabout way, yes, it's shaped my leadership.
It sounds like a lot of program management, project management, iterations, you're playing with operations, you're trying to improve, and you're using the chapter to learn along the way to just get better and to be more efficient.
And facilitating. I think, I'm talking about all the things that we did, but it was a lot of facilitating because you also have to work with your board. Like, I said, we tried smaller programs and this. I just facilitated the conversation. I had my programming people do it, and they took care of it. Um, you know, Before I was saying about the recruitment process, that I hired someone to do it and learn from them. So, yeah, it's working with your board and your team and just creating the space. I think it's more so than actually doing it.
I find your your voracious learning very inspiring. As a product designer myself, I have actually taken to trying to develop things that I want to see, and so I would wear the engineer hat, and it would really piss off engineers. And I'm just curious about that. I guess I wouldn't call it the curse of knowledge per se, but now you have essentially trained, both sides of that coin. I'm curious what the advantages and disadvantages of that are.
Still trying to figure it out
Are you?
myself.
Okay. Okay.
I
Fair enough.
think it's funny because I was an engineer for 2.5 years, and when I was leaving, I talked to one of my friends, and it's like, you know, oh, I'm leaving it, but I learned so much for the last 2.5 years as an engineer. And she's like, of course, you've always been very pragmatic. You always talk like an engineer. So I've always had that, like, uh, how do we now I say analyze data and process data, but when Steph and I sat down to analyze the previous 10 years of the board activities, I think that was a precursor to what I learned as an engineer and then coming back. So now as marketing director, um, I'm thinking a lot about, all right, what, and I work for a hospital, so we don't really have a lot of metrics at the time, so it's really hard. My web manager, we were trying to figure out how do we use data, because before I would sit with a social media person and, hey, can you pull from Sprout this metrics and let's see what works, what didn't work. But now because I have that experience, I can think not just like pull data from Sprout, but what performs, what doesn't perform, what to optimize, what not to optimize. So I think in a way I always thought that way, but now it's enhanced. And it's not in the, you say you pissed off some engineers. Like, yeah, I could code because I did it for 2.5 years. But I think for me, it's more about that thought process and mentality more so than the coding part of it. But I'm still trying to figure it out. Let's talk in a year.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm really curious about that. And I suppose, I'm being a little hyperbolic when I said I pissed him off. It was more like, "Oh, aren't you cute trying to do this?"
Well, because it's funny because like I don't know, like when you learn the code and when you're teaching yourself and it works, you're like, oh, that's great. But then an engineer will look at it as like, can you refactor it? Where are your unit tests? Where are your integration tests? Can you like scale it? Can you generalize it? But then on the other hand, the interesting thing is when I was as an engineer, I was working on advertising products.
Mhm.
Like, it was for Amazon advertising. So when you schedule an ad, like how often do you see it, and then when do you stop seeing it? And sometimes I would see things like UI that was created by an engineer, and I was like, no, 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 no. where's your letting? Can you indent the line so we can tell that it's a list if you're not including bullets? Can you like no, 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 no. I did it the other way around. I shamed the engineers for the UI.
Ooh.
So Eric, there is payback.
There is payback. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you
I
for
didn't know
putting
that, but I redeemed you proactively,
I I
retroactively.
appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Are you involved in AIGA in any way, shape, or form right now?
Well, I'm on the mentorship program as a mentor.
Okay.
And I was a mentee last time. They did a collaboration with Philly Kai, which is the UX equivalent of AIJ locally. So I was a mentee then, now I'm a mentor. I have a frustrated dream of one of my initiatives that I never accomplished, and I spoke to Keith, who's the current president, and I said to him when I was looking for jobs, like, if I get a job by January in creative, I'll do this. I'm a little tired of my job search. It's not happening. Sorry, Keith. It may not happen. Um, it's not, but it's in the back of my head eventually.
Always, right?
Eventually. Yeah.
Oh.
Don't take me out for lunch, Rachel. When we had lunch last time, you didn't it didn't happen.
Well, there are a lot of projects in the back of my head. This being one of them, podcast.
I love that you're doing this.
I know it's needed. It's definitely needed. I miss everybody. I miss the leadership retreats. I miss the connections. I miss the events. So just to be able to kind of document all the leadership
Yeah.
retreats and the experiences that we all had, and pulling those
Yeah.
photos out of Facebook groups, whether people are happy about that or not.
And I gotta say, Rachel, I'm so happy that you're doing this and you're putting a very positive twist on the organization. And when I met you and Stacy, um, I was really excited to hear your thoughts because we did go through some dark times organizationally, and there are a lot of issues. Um, there were a lot of issues for the past 5 years, and I'm not going to hash them out, but just seeing that you're on board and you're so optimistic about it, and then talking to Stacy. Stacy has always been like a shining light in the whole process. And then hearing from other people how there's a resurged enthusiasm about the organization. I'm so excited. I'm very happy that I don't know anyone on the board at the moment because I think that's a good thing. I think we were a little too close knit. So I think it's a good thing that I don't know anyone on the board. But on the other hand, I think it's also fantastic that you and other people are shining a light on it because it's a great organization and we need it. Even if we're not involved, we need it. So I in a long way of saying thank you because I think you're doing fantastic stuff and there are a lot of people that are doing fantastic stuff and this is a great initiative. And Eric, thank you by
Oh,
extension because
yeah.
you're
Thank
doing it.
you. Yeah. You could tell people are uplifted by it. And I myself included, just I never realized how much I missed community
Yeah.
until we started talking about it. It's like, oh, wow, yeah, miss it.
And that was it. And that was a good thing about like as much as I say it's good that I don't recognize anyone, like I think it was Shaw who said like that was the golden era of like the retreats and all that. Like the fact that we can have these conversations again, like Rachel, I said 12 years later, but it's like 19 years later, 18 years later. But then like you were talking a couple of episodes. Who was the first episode? Amanda was the first
Amanda,
episode.
yeah. Mhm.
I never met her, but it's a shared experience. So listen to her episode. It's like I might as well have been in the room because it's a shared experience. I'm connecting with her without knowing her. So yeah, I love that. I love that catching up and connecting.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Bernardo, we're going to need your help to gather data from all of these episodes So it logs the names, how many people were mentioned, which retreats were mentioned the most. Like, I would like to see a graph of popularity of people, because right now you have to scrub through all of them audibly.
We didn't even have to ask him out for dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. And I thought breakfast was just for fun, Rachel. You're over recruited me.
Yeah.
Let's transcribe the episodes and let's extract data.
There you
And let's we weren't allowed to use ChatGPT at Amazon. It took a while until we were able to use Amazon Q. So maybe I'll just use ChatGPT and
Oh, there you go.
extract stuff, and then let's figure out who can do like the visualization. I don't know. Let's
Just
do it. Let's do it.
Just facilitate it. You don't have to.
Although I have a challenge for the two of you. How are we going to
Oh.
do the pyramids for this group, for this podcast?
This is really tough.
Good question.
Well, thank you, Bernardo. This was so much fun catching up, and it's been long overdue. I really appreciate it, and getting your insights on leadership and facilitation, I think, has been very insightful.
Thank you both. And seriously, thank you for doing this. It's community. You're building community again. I really appreciate it.
Bernardo, it was pleasure to meet you.
And 19 years later, we're going to go back and be like, we've known each other for 19 years. And Rachel and I for 38 years.
Cheers to Bernardo. Thank you so much. Really appreciate
Cheers
it.
to you.
Cheers and Tears will be back next time with more design leadership tales retold.
Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast with your creative community, design leaders, and friends.
Cheers and Tears Design Leadership Tales Were Told is a production of Chapter 2 and hosted by us, Rachel Elnar and Eric Cargill. This episode was produced and edited by Rachel Elnar. Podcast graphics by Eric Cargill. Animation by Verso Design and Megatow Design.
The theme music track is Loose Ends by Silver Ships Plastic Oceans. Follow Cheers and Tears on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube podcasts, or wherever you get your audio and video podcasts. Subscribe to our email list at cheersandtears.com so you don't miss an episode.